Commander Thalia Drake stood at the observation deck of New Haven Colony's main defense tower, her weathered hands gripping the railing as she watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and violet. The colony's shield generators hummed beneath her feet, a constant reminder of humanity's precarious existence on this frontier world. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared her for the weight of responsibility she now carried 5,000 colonists, all depending on her to keep them safe. The proximity alert chimed, drawing her attention to the holographic display. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera's voice crackled through the comm. "Commander, long-range sensors are picking up multiple signatures approaching from the Cerberus belt. They don't match any known configurations." Thalia's jaw tightened. They'd lost contact with 3 outer colonies in the past month, each going dark without warning. "Sound general quarters. I want all defense teams at their stations within 5 minutes." The colony's warning sirens began their mournful wail as colonists hurried to their designated shelters. Thalia made her way to the command center, her boots echoing against metal floors. The command center was a hive of activity, officers and technicians working with practiced efficiency. "Report," she ordered, taking her position at the central tactical display. Dr. Samira Patel, the colony's chief scientist, looked up from her console, her dark eyes wide with concern. "These readings don't make sense, Commander. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. They're adapting to our scans." "Hostile intent?" Thalia asked, though she already knew the answer. "They're accelerating," Marcus confirmed, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. "Impact with our outer defense grid in 3 minutes." Thalia activated the colony-wide comm. "This is Commander Drake. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The first impacts came seconds later. The colony's shields flared brilliant blue as unknown weapons tried to punch through. Through the observation windows, Thalia could see them now sleek, organic-looking ships that moved with impossible grace, their hulls shifting and changing like liquid metal. "Shields at 80%, Marcus called out. "Whatever they're using, it's eating through our defenses faster than the generators can compensate." Thalia's mind raced through options. The colony's automated defense systems were already engaging, plasma turrets tracking and firing at the alien vessels. But their attacks seemed to pass right through, as if the ships weren't fully present in normal space. "Dr. Patel, I need options," Thalia demanded, watching as another barrage hammered their shields. Samira's fingers flew across her console. "Their ships appear to be phase-shifting, existing partially in another dimension. That's why our weapons aren't fully effective. But there might be a way to force them fully into our reality." "Do it," Thalia ordered. "It would require reconfiguring our shield generators to emit a specific quantum frequency. But, Commander, it would leave us completely exposed for at least 30 seconds. A direct hit rocked the command center, sending sparks cascading from overloaded circuits. "Shields at 40%, Marcus reported. Thalia made her decision. "Begin the reconfiguration. Lieutenant Rivera, concentrate all remaining firepower on their largest vessel. Dr. Patel, you have 30 seconds. The next minutes were chaos. The shields flickered and died as Samira worked, leaving the colony exposed. Enemy fire rained down, but Thalia held her ground, trusting in her people in the plan. She watched the countdown on Samira's display, each second stretching into eternity. "Now," Samira shouted, activating the reconfigured shields. A wave of quantum energy burst outward from the colony's generators. The alien ships suddenly solidified, their liquid metal forms becoming rigid and vulnerable. "All batteries, open fire," Thalia commanded. The colony's weapons found their marks at last. The first alien ship erupted in a spectacular explosion, its destruction triggering a chain reaction among its companions. Within moments, the threat was neutralized, the remaining ships retreating into the darkness of space. But as the adrenaline faded, Thalia knew this was only the beginning. These attackers would return, and next time they would be ready for the colony's defenses. She turned to her officers, her voice steady despite the exhaustion she felt. Begin damage assessment and repairs immediately, and get me a secure channel to Earth Command. They need to know what we're facing out here. As her crew carried out their orders, Thalia returned to the observation deck, watching the debris of the alien ships burn up in the atmosphere like falling stars. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was just beginning. And somehow, she knew that everything was about to change. 2 days after the attack, Commander Drake stood in the colony's diplomatic chamber, facing a being she never expected to meet. The alien warrior called Krevnar towered over her, its iridescent scales shifting colors in the artificial light. 4 amber eyes studied her with an intelligence that made her skin crawl. "Your defense against the Void Hunters was impressive," Krevnar said, its translator converting complex harmonics into rough English. "Few survived their first encounter." Thalia maintained her composure, though her hand stayed close to her sidearm. "You know our attackers." "The Void Hunters are ancient," Krevnar responded, moving to the chamber's viewport. "They emerge every 1,000 cycles to harvest advanced civilizations. My people, the Nexari, have fought them across generations." Dr. Patel, standing beside Thalia, couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. "The phase-shifting technology they used, it's beyond anything we've encountered." "It is not technology," Krevnar's voice carried a note of grim amusement. "The Void Hunters are living weapons created by a long-dead race to win a war no one remembers. They evolve, adapt, consume, and now they have found your species." Lieutenant Rivera entered the chamber, his face tight with concern. "Commander, we're receiving reports from the Arcturus sector. 3 more colonies have gone dark." Thalia's heart sank, but she kept her voice steady. "How long do we have?" Krevnar turned all 4 eyes toward her. "Days, perhaps. They will return in greater numbers, having learned from their defeat. My ship detected their breeding grounds in the Cerberus Belt. They are preparing for a full-scale invasion." "Why are you here?" Thalia asked directly. "Why warn us?" The alien warrior's scales rippled with dark patterns. "Because my people are dying. We have fought alone for too long. The Void Hunters adapt to every weapon, every strategy we develop. But your colony, you did something unprecedented. You forced them into physical form." "Dr. Patel's quantum frequency modulation," Thalia realized. "But it only worked because they weren't expecting it. They'll be ready next time." "Perhaps," Krevnar agreed. "But your species thinks differently than mine. You create solutions we would never consider. Together, we might find a way to end this threat permanently." Before Thalia could respond, another alarm blared through the colony. Marcus rushed to a console. "Multiple signatures emerging from FTL, but they're not Void Hunters. Commander, they're Earth ships." The diplomatic chamber's viewport filled with the sight of 3 massive battlecruisers dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Thalia recognized the lead vessel, the ECS Hyperion, flagship of Admiral Viktor Petrov. "Unexpected reinforcements?" Krevnar asked, a hint of suspicion in its harmonics. "Admiral Petrov received my report," Thalia explained. "But I didn't expect Earth Command to respond so quickly." The Admiral's hologram materialized in the chamber. His weathered face showed no reaction to Krevnar's presence. "Commander Drake, your colony is hereby ordered to evacuate. We'll provide escort back to Earth-controlled space." "With respect, Admiral," Thalia stepped forward, "evacuation isn't the answer. We have an opportunity here." "This is not a debate, Commander," Petrov cut her off. "Our long-range scans show hundreds of hostile signatures mobilizing in the Cerberus Belt. This colony cannot withstand an assault of that magnitude." "Your Admiral is tactically correct," Krevnar interjected, surprising everyone. "But strategically short-sighted. If you retreat, the Void Hunters will simply follow, growing stronger with each colony they consume. You must strike now while they are concentrated in one location." Admiral Petrov's hologram flickered as he studied the alien warrior. "And I suppose you have a plan." "Not yet," Krevnar's scales shifted to a deep blue. "But I know that humans are remarkably good at improvising in desperate situations, and this, Admiral, is a very desperate situation." Thalia watched the tension build between the alien warrior and the Admiral, two ancient military traditions clashing in silent evaluation. Finally, Petrov spoke. "You have 12 hours, Commander Drake. Either present me with a viable plan to eliminate this threat, or I'm ordering a full retreat, and I expect you to comply." As the Admiral's hologram vanished, Thalia turned to her unlikely allies, a brilliant scientist, a loyal lieutenant, and an alien warrior who had crossed the stars to find help. "Well then," she said, moving to the tactical display, "let's get to work." 8 hours into their 12-hour deadline, the command center of New Haven Colony had transformed into a war room. Holographic displays showed tactical readouts, scientific analyses, and the ever-growing swarm of void hunters amassing in the Cerberus belt. Dr. Patel slumped in her chair, exhausted after running countless simulations. "The quantum frequency modulation won't work again. I've detected their molecular structure already adapting to resist the effect." "They learn quickly," Krevnar observed, its scales now a deep crimson of frustration. "My people once used radiation pulses to disrupt their phase shifting. Within 3 battles, they had developed an immunity." Lieutenant Rivera studied the tactical display, his eyes tracking the enemy movements. "They're not just gathering, they're organizing. These patterns look almost like battle formations," Thalia finished. She'd been watching the same movements, feeling a growing sense of dread. "They're not just adapting their defenses, they're learning our tactics." A junior officer burst into the command center. "Commander, the civilian bunkers. We're detecting a breach." Thalia's blood ran cold. "Location." "Lower-level Section D security feeds show. Something's phasing through the walls. It's smaller than the ships we encountered, but—" "Infiltrators," Krevnar snarled, already moving toward the door. "They've sent scouts to test your internal defenses." Thalia grabbed her pulse rifle. "Marcus, coordinate with Admiral Petrov's ships. If these things break containment, I want emergency evacuation protocols ready. Dr. Patel, keep working on a solution. Krevnar, you're with me." They sprinted through the colony's corridors, the emergency lights casting everything in a bloody red glow. The sound of weapons fire echoed from below, followed by screams. When they reached Section D, they found 2 security officers backing away from a shifting mass of liquid metal that oozed through the wall. As they watched, it formed into a vaguely humanoid shape, its surface rippling like mercury. "Standard weapons are useless," Krevnar warned, producing a strange device from its armor. "Use this." It tossed a similar device to Thalia, a weapon that hummed with alien energy. The infiltrator moved with terrifying speed, its arms elongating into razor-sharp tentacles. Thalia rolled aside as one tentacle sliced through the space where she'd been standing, cutting clean through the metal wall. She fired Krevnar's weapon. A burst of coruscating energy struck the creature, causing its liquid metal form to momentarily solidify. Krevnar followed up with a shot of its own, the combined energy making the infiltrator shatter like glass. But more were coming. Through the walls, through the floor, silvery shapes taking form around them. "Fall back," Thalia ordered the security team. "Get those civilians out of here." Her comm crackled. "Commander," Dr. Patel's voice was urgent. "I've been analyzing the data from your encounter. These infiltrators, they're connected to the main swarm somehow. Quantum entanglement on a massive scale." "How does that help us?" Thalia demanded, firing another shot as she and Krevnar retreated down the corridor. "Because it's their weakness," Samira exclaimed. "Their ability to learn and adapt comes from this connection. If we could disrupt it." "They would lose their tactical advantage," Krevnar finished. "But such disruption would require enormous power." Lieutenant Rivera cut in over the comm. "Commander, Admiral Petrov is demanding an update. We have less than 3 hours before he orders the evacuation." Thalia's mind raced as she ducked behind a barrier, another infiltrator's attack missing her by inches. The colony's power grid, the Earth battle cruisers, Krevnar's ship, none of them alone had enough energy to disrupt a quantum field of that magnitude. "But together—" "Dr. Patel," she called out. If we linked the power cores of every ship in orbit with the colony's generators, could we create a large enough disruption? Theoretically, yes, Samira replied. But the energy discharge would destroy the power systems of every facility involved. We'd be defenseless. And the Void Hunters would still be out there, Krevnar added, its scales pulsing with concern. Weakened but not defeated. Another explosion rocked the colony. Commander, Marcus's voice was tense. Multiple breaches reported in sectors F through H. We're losing ground. Thalia looked at Krevnar, seeing her own grim determination reflected in those alien eyes. We're not trying to defeat them, she said. Not yet. We just need to buy enough time to evacuate the colony and convince Admiral Petrov we have a real chance at stopping these things. A costly gambit, Krevnar observed. Do we have a choice? The alien warrior's scales shifted to a resolute gold. No, we do not. Thalia opened a channel to the command center. Dr. Patel, begin preparations for a full power linkage. Lieutenant Rivera, coordinate with the Earth ships. I need their cooperation. And someone get me Admiral Petrov. It's time to show him humanity, and the Nexari working together can achieve the impossible. As if in response to her defiance, the walls around them began to vibrate with the approach of more infiltrators. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of New Haven Colony, but possibly the survival of two civilizations. And Thalia Drake intended to make every second count. Admiral Petrov's hologram loomed in the damaged command center, his expression severe as he listened to Commander Drake's plan. You want me to deliberately sacrifice 3 state-of-the-art battlecruisers on the chance that this disruption theory works? Not sacrifice, Dr. Patel interjected, her fingers flying over the console as she made final calculations. The power systems will be burned out, yes, but the ships themselves will remain intact. We can rebuild. If we survive, Marcus added quietly from his station. Thalia stood firm, despite the chaos around them. Through the viewport, they could see the colony's outer sections already showing damage from the infiltrator attacks. Admiral, in 1 hour, that swarm will hit us with everything they have. We've seen what a handful of infiltrators can do. Imagine thousands of their ships attacking simultaneously. The Void Hunters do not merely destroy. Krevnar's harmonics carried depths of ancient pain. They consume, learn, evolve. Each victory makes them stronger if they are not stopped here. A distant explosion rocked the command center. Petrov's hologram flickered, then stabilized. The Admiral's weathered face showed the weight of command, of decisions that would cost lives either way. You have your authorization, Commander Drake, he said finally. God help us all. The next 40 minutes were a blur of desperate preparation. Dr. Patel coordinated with engineering teams across 4 vessels, synchronizing power systems that were never meant to connect. Lieutenant Rivera organized the remaining security forces, establishing a defensive perimeter around the colony's core. Energy synchronization at 60%, Samira reported, her voice strained. But Commander, there's a problem. Someone needs to remain in the primary power junction to manually maintain the link. The automated systems can't handle the feedback. Thalia looked at her chief scientist. That's a suicide mission. The junction will be flooded with radiation the moment we activate the pulse. I volunteer, Krevnar stepped forward, scales shifting to a deep purple of resolve. My species can withstand radiation levels that would kill humans instantly. I can hold the link long enough. Before Thalia could respond, the proximity alarms screamed. Marcus's hands flew across his tactical display. Multiple phase signatures. The swarm is accelerating. They're beginning their attack run. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as the darkness of space seemed to ripple and distort. Hundreds of Void Hunter ships emerged from phase shift, their liquid metal forms catching the light of New Haven's sun. All hands battle stations, Thalia commanded, her voice carrying across all channels. This is Commander Drake. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, know that you've done humanity proud. Stand fast, stand together. The first wave hit like a tsunami of living metal. The colony's remaining defenses and the Earth battlecruisers opened fire, their weapons briefly illuminating space with desperate fury. But for every void hunter they destroyed, two more took its place. Energy synchronization at 80%, Samira called out. We need 2 more minutes. We don't have 2 minutes, Marcus reported grimly. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, the infiltrators are. An explosion tore through the command center's ceiling. Liquid metal forms began pouring through the breach, taking shape as they descended. Security teams opened fire, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the phase-shifting creatures. Get to the backup command post, Thalia ordered her crew. Complete the synchronization, I'll hold them here. Commander, Marcus started to protest. That's an order, Lieutenant. As her crew evacuated, Thalia raised Krevnar's weapon, its alien energy humming in her hands. The infiltrators moved toward her with predatory grace, their fluid forms rippling with deadly purpose. Well, she muttered, taking aim, let's see how many of you I can take with me. The backup command post erupted with activity as Dr. Patel and Lieutenant Rivera worked to complete the power synchronization. Through the security feeds, they watched Commander Drake fighting a desperate holding action against the infiltrators, each shot from Krevnar's weapon finding its mark but barely slowing the tide. Energy synchronization at 95%, Samira announced, her voice tight with tension. Krevnar, are you in position? The alien warrior's response came through with static. Affirmative, the junction is secured, begin the final sequence. Marcus monitored the tactical displays, watching the Void Hunter swarm surrounding the colony and Earth ships. Their attacks are becoming more coordinated. They're learning our defense patterns in real time. In the primary command center, Thalia backed against a console as more infiltrators poured through the breach. Her borrowed weapon's energy was depleting rapidly. Status on that pulse. Synchronization complete. Samira's voice carried equal parts triumph and fear. But Commander, we're detecting power fluctuations in the junction. The radiation levels are higher than predicted. Even Krevnar won't survive more than a few seconds once we activate. Through the command center's broken viewport, Thalia watched a Void Hunter ship tear through one of the Earth battlecruiser's defensive screens. We're out of options. Do it. Commander, Krevnar's harmonics were strained but determined. It has been an honor to fight alongside humans. Your species has much to teach the galaxy about courage. Activating pulse in 3, 2. Samira's count was interrupted by a massive explosion from the junction level. Warning klaxons blared as radiation levels spiked, but instead of failing, the power linkage suddenly stabilized. Through the chaos of battle, a new voice came over the comm. I believe, Admiral Petrov's calm tone carried over the channel, that I can hold this junction long enough for your alien friend to handle the infiltrators up there, Commander. Thalia's eyes widened. Admiral, how? Did you think I'd order my ships into this position without being prepared to share the risk? The Admiral's voice was strained but unwavering. Besides, the radiation shielding in this environment suit should give me enough time. Krevnar, I suggest you hurry. The command center doors burst open as Krevnar charged in, wielding 2 energy weapons. Its scales blazed with patterns Thalia had never seen before, colors of battle, of vengeance, of hope. Now, Dr. Patel, Thalia commanded, activate the pulse. The combined power of 3 Earth battlecruisers, a Nexari warship, and New Haven colony's generators surged through carefully calibrated systems. Space itself seemed to bend as a wave of quantum disruption expanded outward at light speed. The effect on the Void Hunters was immediate and devastating. Their phase-shifting abilities failed, leaving them fully material. More importantly, their shared consciousness, the key to their rapid adaptation, shattered. The infiltrators in the command center froze, their liquid metal forms becoming brittle and solid. Throughout space, the swarm's coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. Multiple signatures breaking formation, Marcus reported, his voice rising with excitement. They're retreating. All batteries open fire, Thalia ordered. Don't let them escape. The combined forces of Earth and Nexari technology unleashed their full power on the now vulnerable Void Hunters. Space lit up with explosions as the ancient threat was finally, decisively defeated. Hours later, as rescue teams worked to stabilize the colony and evacuate the radiation-flooded junction, Thalia stood with Krevnar in the damaged command center. Emergency force fields contained the hull breach, giving them a clear view of the debris field that had once been the Void Hunter swarm. "Admiral Petrov," she asked quietly. "His sacrifice will be remembered by my people," Krevnar responded, its scales a solemn blue. "As will this day, perhaps. Perhaps it is time for the Nexari to emerge from our isolation. Your species has shown us that facing threats alone is not always the wisest path." Thalia nodded, watching as Earth rescue ships and Nexari vessels worked together to secure the area. "We're stronger together. That's one thing humans have always understood." "Indeed," Krevnar turned its 4 eyes toward her. "The galaxy is changing, Commander Drake. The Void Hunters were not the only ancient threat sleeping in the dark spaces when the next crisis comes." "We'll face it together," Thalia finished, extending her hand in the human gesture of alliance. Krevnar's scales shifted to a color she had never seen before, perhaps the Nexari equivalent of hope, as it clasped her hand with its own. Above them, the light of New Haven's sun broke through the debris clouds, illuminating the first moments of a new era of cooperation between two civilizations that had found strength in unity, courage in desperation, and hope in the darkest of times. The battle was over. The real work of building a future together was just beginning.